there's this idea, well, I'm not so young anymore, but like these young guys are tripping all over themselves, right? Like if you're listening to this podcast and you're 20, if you can chill the fuck out, you'll make yourself much more attractive.
Welcome to the Ask Ezra Intimacy Coaching Podcast, a peek behind the curtain of some of the most intimate conversations that people have with Ezra as an intimacy coach. Join us for a session already in progress.
Yeah, I'm originally from Pennsylvania, and I lived in South Korea for about 7 years before coming to Spain in 2013. So I'm currently living in Spain.
Awesome.
Yeah.
Awesome. I have never been to Spain or South Korea, but I have been to Pennsylvania.
Oh, nice. Where?
I had a scholarship where they had a retreat in Wallingford, of all places.
Like that's got to be out in the middle of almost nowhere.
Yes. But it was like a Quaker little cloister, so it made sense, right? It was very quiet, very woodsy. It was beautiful. Beautiful and so different from Philly. So I flew into Philly and then took the train out to the middle of nowhere. So
yeah, that's what Pennsylvania is. 2 cities and then nothing.
Yeah, well, I'm from Massachusetts, so I'm used to woods. You know, I live in Southern California now, and we got no woods unless you go in the mountains.
I've been to California once, to San Francisco. Just once for like 2 days. I had a layover actually, and then I extended a layover to be like 2 days because my friend was living out there. So I went to San Francisco. So, did the sights.
Yeah, it makes sense. It's hard to get a feel for a city in a couple days, but it's nice at least. So what brought you to South Korea and then Spain?
Teaching English. So I started my journey in my mid-20s, 25, 26. And I taught English over there with the intention to actually end up here. I went to South Korea, and my plan was to go there to get some teaching experience, to get my certification for teaching English, and in 1 to 2 years, come back here to Spain to live. And 1 year turned to 2, turned to 3, turned to 4, turned to, building your life there. And then in 2013, I finally made the move to come here.
Awesome. So 2013, so you've been there 9 years?
Around 9 years. Yeah.
Wow. So you're incredible,
right?
You're probably staying, huh? I mean, 9 years is a long time.
Well, I have 2 kids here now. So I'm here for a while.
Staying whether you want to or not, right?
Yeah. Well, they make me want to, so that's good incentive. Yeah. But when they get, in the United States, when the kids grow up, they leave the house, but when they grow up, I think I'm going to keep that tradition, and I'm going to go to another country. Who knows? Yeah, you're
going to keep the tradition, the American tradition, and kick them out of the house.
You're 18. Yeah, well, I'm going to kick myself out of the house, Yeah.
Sure. Yeah, no, I hear you. That's pretty cool. I've been to Europe a few times, but never Spain. It's on the list. I heard they party all night long.
Yeah. It's like here it's 8:30, 8:15, like I'm used to going to bed at like 12, 1, something. Not even just partying, it's just like a cultural thing. Like in the summer, the sun stays out until 10 p.m. almost.
Wow. Yeah. The thing that I really feel like we lack in the United States is this like town square experience. Like I'm pretty sure you've got it in Spain, because I know that they have it in Italy for sure. But this idea that there is like a town square and people are encouraged to loiter, people are encouraged to like.
Oh, the kids are playing football out there, like on the cement, the square. They're playing soccer in there, using trees that are planted as goals. It's really cool to see. I really like that, the vibe out there.
Well, in the summertime in Italy, they have like the passeggiata, the walk, and like everybody in the town goes for a walk at 10 o'clock.
That's
to
cool.
me, that's so cool, because it's like you don't have to pay for it and you get to see all your friends. Like, there's
it's like a
nothing
community
like that in
thing,
the States.
right?
Yeah. It's like, oh, you want to see all your friends, you're gonna have, it's a 2-drink minimum. Like there's no like free thing that you can just do. Tim, you said you're a coach as well, right?
Yeah, so I spent a while coaching English, actually, for business owners, for salespeople, but I've kind of transitioned to that to go back to the kids, to coaching parents. And what I do, because my kids are bilingual, and plus my background in teaching language, I see how effortless it is, because kids pick up, anything new so quickly. Quickly. They're just sponges. They're learning machines. So what I do, I help parents, usually multicultural families, but it doesn't have to be, but I help them to raise multilingual kids. And then there's a lot of like mindful parent training and things like that. It's really cool.
Yeah, I hear you. So they don't just know the expletives and the other language, right?
No, they can, but those are usually the first things we learn anyway, isn't it?
Yeah, it's true. It's true. I want to learn how to say swears.
I remember when I was in middle school, I took Spanish class. I didn't learn anything in middle or high school because I cheated. So, don't cheat, because you're only cheating yourself. But my grandmother, who was Mexican and still is, I guess, and this is one of the reasons why I teach parents how to do this, because she's Mexican. She raised up her kids. Her kids don't speak Spanish. They actually kind of like resented it. And there's a lot of that. So that's something I want to help. But she heard that I was taking Spanish class. So she sent me a dictionary. So what did I look up for? I'm like 13 years old. I look up like, I don't know what I'm allowed to say on here, but I look up the words that you're not supposed to say on TV. Yeah, okay. Yeah. And then I tell my mom, I'm like, did you know that, something is this? And she's like, oh, is it? So my mom's cool. But she told my grandmom, she told her mom, sweet old lady. She's like, oh, sure. I'm sorry. I didn't know he was going to do that. She's like, Mom, of course, that's the first thing we do.
Yeah, knowledge is power. What you do with that power is kind of up to you.
That's it. With great power comes great responsibility, right?
Fantastic. So Jess, you mentioned you had 2 kids. Are you married, partnered?
Separated and going through a divorce.
Okay. How's that going for you?
I'm super proud of both of us and our kids for how we're handling it. Especially, it was rocky at first, of course. It's like been probably a little over a year in the making since it's come out, like the separation discussion, and what do we do? A lot of like underlying tension before that, right? But since we've started talking about a little over a year, and but I'm super proud about how both of us have handled it. I've grown a lot. She's grown a lot. She has a partner, and he seems like a good guy, and he treats the kids well. That's the most important thing. And it's we're both in better places right now.
I'm really glad to hear that. I like to say, even the best divorce sucks. So
it does when you're going through it. Yeah, it does when you're going through it. And then once you come out, as long as you keep focused on, what's ahead. So many people, they focus on what they lost, and they focused on what could have been, and they focus on they kind of tend to have a selective amnesia, and they forget all of the real shitty stuff, and all of the tension, all the bad feelings. And I do too. I forget that, but I look at it as fond memories. In fact, just the other day was our would-be anniversary. And we went out for a midday drink and kids. And but I don't look back. It's what could have been. I look back as fun memories and then look forward at what will be.
Sure. Yeah, absolutely. Because you still, if you're co-parenting, you're gonna have a relationship.
Yeah, that's just it.
And how old are your kids again?
5 and 7.
5 and 7. Yeah. So you got 10 years.
Yeah.
Yeah.
At least.
Yeah. I feel that. I've been divorced twice, and I'm practically an expert at this point.
Yeah, I'd imagine so. Are you open to be married again, or?
I think I'm very well disillusioned, and so I won't say never, but I will say like not likely.
Yeah,
because I think, I had some ideas about what marriage might be and what that commitment means to other people, and that doesn't feel very real to me anymore. So I would rather have a commitment from somebody that isn't bound by law, that isn't like you're with me because it would be inconvenient to leave me. Like, I would rather you be with me because you want to be with me. And I can even see my faith in a relationship being even greater because there is this, they're independent and they can leave if they want. So
that's it.
I know they're with me because they want to be with me, right? Not because it would be a lot of paperwork, like
societal pressures, or don't want to hire a lawyer or anything like that. Yeah.
Forget about that. So, but I'm also polyamorous, and so making marriage type commitments can be kind of complicating
I can imagine
of other relationships and other potential, right? So I probably eventually will get married just for, tax purposes and legal reasons. Be like, we've been together for 20 years. Like, why are we not married? Let's just do it.
Yeah.
But but I'm really more in pursuit of a household than a partnership. So
definitely.
Definitely.
That's the thing, right? Looking for a household. That's a great way to put it. Looking for a household, looking for maybe a partner, a life partner, a love partner, whatever you want to say.
Yeah. Well,
somebody that you make each other better. You kind of complete each other.
Yeah. Well, I tend to not think in pair terms. When I say household, I really mean in like the leather community sense of a household, where it's more of a group of people with romantic connections.
Got it.
So yeah,
with the polyamorous path, I guess we could say.
Yeah. But I would be interested in, now that you are a free man, now that you're single or soon to be single, what are your ambitions romantically?
I would say that I would consider myself single for sure. So it's been a long time since I've had like romantic, feelings. Like, I just didn't want it. It's like, going through the process, going through a grieving process, going through a rebuilding process, focusing on a business. Like, that takes up a lot of energy, right? And then personal development. And I just come to a point where, I think I don't want to say something missing, because I don't want another person to be like the thing that's like, that I feel that's filling what I feel is missing. Right. So I want to be careful with how I paint the picture, but I'm just ready to start something with somebody, or at least to begin looking seriously. You know what I mean? Does that make sense?
It does. Yeah. Well, and I think that personally, all levels of commitment and connection are valid. Right. I think sometimes we make a hierarchy of relationships, and the ones that are aimed at long term or serious or committed or monogamous are put on a higher level, right? And if that's how you want to live, then you certainly have that right. But I don't think that's a good policy just arbitrarily, right? Like, to just have that hierarchy because it's often held.
Right.
And I think that you'll find, if you haven't been dating for 10 years, I think you'll find that there's a lot less compulsory monogamy or compulsory exclusivity, right? So like you can be completely exclusive. You can be completely monogamous. You can be, if I'm in a committed relationship, that's it. It's just the one person. And most people are that way. But I think that you'll find that in the dating pool, there is a lot more we're not exclusive yet kind of talk, right? I think that's something that's much more common and mainstream. I mean, I'm not dating in Spain, so I can't say that, but the trend I've noticed in the United States is that over the last 10 years, this notion of, not being exclusive until we are exclusive is stronger. Like it used to be sort of this assumption that if we're dating, then, we're dating each other. And if you're seeing somebody else, then you're somehow unscrupulous or,
right,
or
you're
not being
cheating or
honest.
whatever.
Yeah, but instead I think it's flipped. And so the assumption is non-exclusivity until you have the conversation of exclusivity.
I think here it's a bit more traditional, and I sense that in the United States that it's moving towards that way. And later years having children, the years of having children seem to be rising too. I was late at having children. I mean, relatively compared to a lot of my friends, from home. But I think I don't know. I think they're more traditional than in the United States. I think they're behind. I don't want to say behind like as in a negative way, but like they are more traditional in that sense. And I might be too. Sure. I don't know. I'm open to find out as much as I can about myself, to be honest.
And dating can be a great way to find out about yourself and explore and try things on. Hey listeners, if you like the Ask Ezra podcast, then let me know. Comment on your favorite episode, let us know what you enjoyed or what you'd like to see more of. Now back to the episode. Do you have any concerns or doubts about your experience in that space?
Yeah, kind of. So I mentioned about starting a business and having focus on myself, and plus, like you said, I haven't really dated since the separation. I've been on Tinder and things and had a few dates, but nothing really serious and to continue. And it's just like my libido and it might be age, right? So libido's gone down, lack of interest, whereas before that was the primary interest, but now it's like almost non-existent, and which is a good thing, because then you tend to value women more if that's not your primary focus. You know what I mean? In some ways,
maybe.
Maybe. Yeah. I just saw it relative, but we're talking classic, ideas, I guess.
Sure.
But I guess my concern is, for one, being out of practice for so long, in dating, in sharing those moments, things like that. That's probably one. And having central focused on a business, but also having focused on a person, how will that fit together? And I know when I find someone that clicks, it'll probably, fit together in a way I can't see now. I'm open to that as well.
Yeah. Let's take a second and talk about a libido transition, right? Because I think that is a really common experience, especially for men, where as we get older, we're not 19 anymore, right?
Yeah.
And there is this unfortunate trope that men are measured on their accomplishments, and that achieving an erection at the drop of a hat is part of that list of accomplishments, right?
Yeah.
And the most dangerous component is that you would measure yourself that way, right? Because now, if just because you're not 19, you feel like you're less valuable, right? And that self-evaluation is actually the thing that makes you less attractive, not the ability to reach spontaneous erection, right?
Yeah.
So I think that reframing that experience is super important, right? Like the paradigm has to shift as our bodies change, our experience with sex changes. It just is gonna happen. It's not necessarily any kind of dysfunction. It's not necessarily any kind of problem. It's just part of getting older, right?
Yeah. And when I say libido, I guess I don't know if I am using it correctly. I guess what I'm referring to is more even the desire.
Sure.
You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So it's even
absolutely.
like getting my ass out of the house. It's like, or you know what I mean? Like, or yeah, it's the desire. It's just not as strong as before, naturally, because I am 43, in case anyone can relate to this. Um, and I know it's a natural process. So, but you asked me if I have a concern. That's kind of my concern.
Sure. Yeah. Well, and I think, I know I went straight to like, like physical stamina and physical performance, but I think that like the emotional component is there too. And again, if you feel like your decreased, let's call it appetite, right? Let's call your libido your appetite, right? So if you're not so hungry anymore, right, you can think about that as I'm less valuable. And then that evaluation is actually more of a problem than your appetite is, right? So if you feel like because you're less hungry, you're somehow less worthy or valuable or attractive, then that's really a problem, right? Whereas if you're less hungry, it isn't necessarily a problem. It's just how hungry you are now, right?
Yeah.
I had a guest on the show who was asexual, and that means that they basically just like have zero libido, right? They're never like, man, I need sex, right? They're sometimes they will have sex as a course of a relationship or for because it's interesting to them for other reasons, but they're basically never hungry, right? And it was really challenging for that person because they were feeling like they were inadequate, like they were less than because they're not hungry like everyone else is, right? And I said, no, it's the other way around. You've got a superpower. You're not hungry. You don't have to make terrible choices. Like you don't ever have to eat McDonald's because you're never super hungry, right? You can wait until that 5-star Michelin opportunity comes around and then you're only eating really nice food, right? So I think that if you can honor where your libido is now, you can really see it as an advantage, as an opportunity. There's these 20-year-old guys running around that need it now, right? And me and you are like, I could pass this up. I don't need to make terrible choices just because I'm horny, right? So, I think that's the way to think about it, is that you're not going to rush into something that's not good for you because you're not starving. Right. And that's a power. There's power in patience. And there are people out there who are looking for hungry people. And there are people out there who are looking for people who are less hungry. So you're going to find somebody who's like, this guy's not in a rush. I like that.
Yeah. I like that reframe. And then I guess it's just having faith that it will come when the time is right.
Yeah, right? Absolutely. I mean, you still have to put the work in, right? But you don't, you don't have to go out to the club every Friday and Saturday night because you need it. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
You can cultivate something that's really wonderful and take your time and wait until somebody really trusts you, and then you have something really beautiful. It's interesting too because I'm not sure exactly how the experience is in Spain, but I know in the United States, dating is a competitive endeavor, right? You're competing against other people.
I think that's the nature of it, right?
Yeah. Yeah. And so there's this idea, well, I'm not so young anymore, but like these young guys are tripping all over themselves, right? Like if you're listening to this podcast and you're 20, if you can chill the fuck out, you'll make yourself much more attractive.
Right.
And if you're in
right.
your 40s, you're just more chill. You have more self-knowledge, you have more awareness, you have more compassion, you're a better listener, right? And you're patient. And women do find that pretty attractive.
Yeah, that's the thing. It's the thing, like when you have that objective on your mind, like women can smell that everyone can smell that from a mile away. You know what I mean? So having patience and just being good within yourself. And you said an interesting thing about valuing, putting value on myself based on my lowered, appetite, as we're saying it. And I almost wonder, and I was thinking as you were saying this, I almost wonder also if it's like a cycle, right? Because maybe I have lower value self-worth, which is something my internal, work is I'm going through, right? But that's leading to lower libido because the kind of thoughts like, what do I have to offer? And what do I, and then that's leading to lower libido, but it's due to, it's like one hand pushes the other. You know what I mean?
Yeah. It's a like vicious cycle.
Yeah.
And it could be a vicious cycle or it could be a wonderful cycle, right?
Yeah. A virtuous cycle.
And the other component, the virtuous cycle is the opposite of the vicious cycle, right? The other component you mentioned is being out of practice.
Yeah.
Right. And there's a simple solution there, right? Is practice.
Yeah.
But what's I think really important is how do you practice? And the best way to practice is to have fun. Right? Like you don't need to tell children to practice running. They just play tag.
Yeah.
They just have fun. They have games. And if you can find some endeavor in dating that is fun for you.
Like gamify it.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, I would be honest. I think gamification is important. I think it's valuable. It makes things, it reduces stress and you have more fun, but it also people don't want to be unknowingly pawns.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah. But at the same time, like you can find environments where people are also dating to have fun. Right.
Yeah.
And then in that case, there's nobody's a pawn. Everybody's a player.
Right. Right.
I wouldn't go to like a speed dating for marriage, like kind of event and be looking for a casual partner. Right.
Yeah.
Because you're sort of necessarily subverting the intention of the event. So that would be like when you're playing games and nobody else is. But if there's like singles night at the roller derby, that's absolutely open for all orientations and all levels of seriousness. You're not, if you go with like, I'm not going to pick anybody up, I'm going to go make friends, then you're certainly, that's fair game.
Yeah. Yeah. No, that's a good point. Yeah. Like without an agenda. Right? Yeah. Without kind of like in business and with everything, if you can detach from the outcome, I guess, is that right?
Yeah. So. Yeah. Or you can find an outcome to look for that is easy and is not going to prevent you from other outcomes, right? Like I might have a client who's rejection sensitive and is like, I'm afraid of being rejected. Say, okay, well, next time you go out, I want you to get rejected on purpose. I want you to go and invite somebody to do something with you and expect them to reject you. And then when they do, you are gracious and you're working on being better at getting rejected, right? So that you're not as afraid of being rejected, right? But if that person then goes and finds a yes, then awesome. Be open to the yes too, right?
That's awesome. That's a really good reframe too.
Yeah.
That could apply in other areas as well.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
There's this like endeavoring to get rejected that's like really freeing. Some people do it like once a day, and you can get really silly. You go get your coffee and you go, hey, do you want to give me this coffee for free? Do you want to give me a donut with this coffee for free? And they're probably going to say no, but you never know.
But they might say yes.
They might say yes. Yeah. And that's a super low stakes example, right? But it helps you get ready for the higher stakes examples.
Yeah, that's a really cool idea. That's a really cool reframe. I want to play with that a bit.
Yeah. I hope it's helpful for you.
Yeah. I hope it's helpful for your listeners too. Like, that's a really valuable thing that I just wrote down. So if you're listening, it might be something to write down.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah,
absolutely. Yeah, and I also think like being wrapped up in a business, I totally get that. I'm also a business owner. But if you're a business owner, be good to your employees. Right. If you're working for yourself, be a good boss and give yourself a break.
Yeah.
And you make your own schedule, so you can take time when it's convenient for you. Right. If going out on Wednesday nights suits you, then you go out on Wednesday nights. Right.
Yeah.
So it's easy to think about it as a limiting factor, but it's also can be an advantage just as easily.
Yeah, for sure. There are definite advantages to it. Yeah, but it's like the energy focus, right?
Yeah.
So it's not really time, well, time too, but the energy focus, where to focus my energy and where to go.
I feel you on that. And it's easy for the business to feel like a bottomless pit, right, of energy, but that's kind of a cop out, right? Like, you can say, hey, I don't have energy for anything but business. And then the business will take all of the energy you give it. Right. But you can also say, I need to spend some energy on me. I need to spend some energy on spending time with my friends. Right.
Yeah, for sure.
Yeah.
And that's something I'm working on a lot more.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Balance. I mean, balance is an essential component of success.
Yeah.
Right. And I think I have a little bit of an easier time because my business is intimacy focused. And if my batteries are not charged, I can't do my job.
Yeah.
And so spa day, necessary.
Yeah.
Date night, necessary. Every once in a while, I need to take a day off in the middle of the week because a play partner has time. And I'm just going to mess around all day.
Yeah.
It's part of my job.
Yeah. Yeah. I should just change careers.
Maybe
change niches.
Maybe. Yeah, well, maybe there's some really sexy people that need to practice their mouthing and tonguing, right? Because language.
Got it. No, but that's really great. Yeah, self-love. That it comes first from self-love.
Yeah.
Right?
Well, and I think if we can clarify self-love, right? It's really easy to think about love in different ways, right? Because love means a million different things. And the way I like to think about self-love, not as like an inspired romantic love, like I don't need to be romantically in love with myself, but I do need to treat myself with love, right?
Yeah, absolutely.
I do need to maintain myself. I do need to be a good friend to myself, right?
Yeah.
And so when I think of self-love, I think of it as a verb. I think of it as an action word, right? Where it's like, are you?
Absolutely. One thing of a practice that I've done, and I kind of got out of this, but I'm getting back into it again, is mirror work. Doing mirror work and looking in each individual eye, telling the person in the mirror that, I love them and why, reasons why, and then look in the other eye and do the same thing, and then look in the other eye, and I kind of do that until I feel something. And that was really powerful when I did it. I need to get back into doing that. And I saw a Facebook post of a friend of mine, and she wrote, if you were dating you, how did she raise it? Something like, if you were dating you, how would you feel? Something like that.
Wonderful.
Yeah.
Yeah. Well, this has been a pleasure, Jesse. Thank you so much for coming on.
Yeah. Thank you for having me. It's not every day you have, well, maybe you do, but like that you have conversations about this kind of thing, and just taking internal work from a different angle, because, remember that we are, holistic beings, really. We are rounded beings, and how well rounded are we in the physical intimacy part? And that's why I came on here, is to to open up that kind of line of thinking to myself.
Yeah, fantastic.
Share my story with listeners who could relate and maybe they felt alone, and to open up some new avenues of thinking and some new enlightenment for myself. So I appreciate the forum. I appreciate it.
Absolutely. And if people want bilingual language coaching, how can they get a hold of you?
Yeah, so you can find me on Facebook. I'm Jesse James Sweed. So Jesse, Jesse, James, and then Sweed, Sweed. Jesse_Sweed on Instagram. And if you're a TikToker, Jesse Sweed.
Awesome. Thank you again, Jesse.
Thank you.
Thanks for watching the Ask Ezra Intimacy Coaching Podcast. Support our show at patreon.com/AskEzra. Join us at the personal growth tier and receive a special thank you on the next podcast episode. A very special thank you to both Sarah Nash and Deb Matson for being Patreon supporters at the personal growth tier and helping make the Ask Ezra Intimacy Coaching Podcast possible.